the Empire State Building.
Z100, New York's #1 hit music station. I'm Josh Martinez with our guest, Bryce Vine. What's good, bro?
What up, man?
So it's been a while. We were talking a little bit before we started recording that I met you back, I want to say 2018 in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, it's Columbus.
It was Columbus. I was running a station in Cincinnati. We were supporting Drew Barrymore. We were supposed to get you on a show with another artist, which I will say this. He was supposed to support an artist and sold more tickets than the headliner. And the show.
Flex.
Yeah. I'll tell you the artist off air.
Okay.
I'll tell you
I
the
was
artist
just
off
about
air.
to ask.
Yeah. We're not going to throw them under the bus. They're still relevant sometimes. But you're out here, dog. You're still, you got something popping coming up in the summer. You're going to be touring for like the military.
Yeah.
That's super
great.
dope.
I love doing it, man. It's a whole different world.
How did you get intertwined with like the Armed Forces Entertainment?
Boy, that's a good question. It was like right after COVID that we got brought on to do a show in Hawaii. I say me and my band. And
what a rough job.
We played for Pearl Harbor on 4th of July.
Oh.
And I don't even remember how it came about, man, but it just worked for us, I love it's a whole different kind of setup, You're playing for full families of people that their whole world is in usually one base, and they raise their families there and they eat there and they only go off base on the weekends and they say yes sir, yes ma'am, and it's kind of a little old school American, and I enjoy it a lot. But we're going to Europe this summer to play for
Poland is one of the spots. Kosovo.
Yeah, Hungary and Turkey.
Have you ever been to those places otherwise or no?
Nah, that's the cool thing too. It brings you to places you maybe never would have seen. I don't know if I would have seen Kosovo.
I don't think that's on a lot of people's list of places to visit.
There's only like 900 people there.
and it's super safe too. I mean, they make sure that you guys are taken care of. Obviously, military base, so everything is like tightened up.
It's a little too safe, honestly. I like to explore when I go places. I travel alone a lot, so the fact that you have to give them your serial number for your laptop and your phone, tell them how many electronics you have, and yada yada yada. And then they got to know where you're going after the tour is done. And I'm like, I don't know yet. I kind of just was gonna maybe go to Istanbul. I don't know.
So from a touring aspect, you just toured recently before the album dropped. Motel California. Jumping into the album a little bit, why the name Motel California? Obviously, we know the history of Hotel California, but why the motel angle?
Yeah, there's a glamour to Hotel California that I think has always existed that I just wanted to remove from the idea of what entertainment industry can be like. Fair. It's not, it's not an unknown thing. People have huge success in entertainment, and they also have fall-offs. And I think all it is about how you ride that wave. It destroys some people. And I think people have even now, there's this glamour idea about LA that I do my best to kind of avoid, okay. I think.
And you grew up in LA?
Yeah,
right?
I grew up there.
So you speaking about LA's glamour or lack thereof, like you're someone that we should listen to then because you've lived it your entire life.
Maybe. It just depends on what you want. Most people move there. Not a lot of people I know in LA that are doing music are from there. Mm-hmm. But I've seen it all. I've seen the rise and fall of so many people, and for all different reasons, some their fault, some not. I've seen ego get in the way a lot. Star effer attitudes and then people like me that are maybe a little too reclusive sometimes. So yeah, it was just, I wanted to write a soundtrack for, if this is your first time coming to LA, these are all the experiences that you can possibly have.
So you mentioned kind of how people have fallen off a little bit and the people that you've known throughout the entertainment industry. How have you?
I don't even know what that means though. What is, because it's just your definition of.
True. And before we even got on, we discussed like what is success. It's all relative,
exactly.
Right?
That there's a middle ground in music that there didn't used to be, a middle class in music rather.
And people, listen, you could make your living on being a middle class artist, which you should get that trademarked, by the way. There's got to be merch somewhere in there for you.
Middle class musician.
Yeah,
that's great.
MCM, dog. There you go. See, middle class musician. That could be the wave. And I think it's fascinating because. Like we discussed, I met you 7 years ago now, through COVID even still. How do you think you are still, like, to this day, touching the fan base that you have?
A lot of the early work, probably, that still lasts now. You got to stay a fan of what you do, for sure, and look at it from their perspective. I think a view from the underdog's perspective is definitely overlooked. Like, people get big and they almost want to get away from how the common person lives as quickly as possible, and not feel normal.
Sure.
It's good for the ego, for sure. But I know these people now. I've been playing for some of these people for 10 years. They were there before I had a hit. When my first EP was in like 2014, I had Sour Patch Kids on it, and no one cared. Really, no one cared. We put it on CDs. That's how old that was. And now it's one of the top listened to songs, and all those people that found it along the way, they're the reason that I get to still do this. So you just can't take them for granted. You respond to the messages, and you give them the time of day at the meet and greets. It's never just like a hug and a picture. People have something to say, and I get it because I was a fan,
Sure.
too. So it's like, you just keep going back to that. You just keep going back to, what is it like for them? How do they want to feel when they listen to your music and when they talk to you? And I think that's what's, why they keep coming back. You got to have some appreciation for the underdog.
So right now in New York City, there's a global songwriting camp going on this whole week while you and I are here.
Yes, there is.
It's called Antisocial Camp. What advice would you have for songwriters and musicians that are starting out now?
I was just talking to somebody about this, 'cause I honestly think I would have a lot more trouble now than when I got big.
Why is that?
Because I don't like to do the internet that much.
Okay.
I'm used to living off of it. I understand it's part of the job. More power to you. But if I had to push Drew Barrymore, La La Land, or Sour Patch Kids solely by TikTok videos and consistent just programming of the crowd, I don't think I'd be able to do it, man. I think I'd probably just pick something else where I could be partly reclusive and do it myself, like a novelist or something.
Sure.
Where I don't need to, but even then, who knows? But now, since you do have to compete with all forms of media as a new artist, it's really important that you just write really good stuff. And how do you write really good stuff? It's actually got to be stuff you want to listen to. I think you just got to make stuff that you feel like is missing. When you're listening to all the artists and all the music that you love, when you're walking down the street, New York City, and you're taking in the sights, what's a song that you would want to listen to right now? And then you make that song. It's easier said than done, but there's things that can help. For me, reading is a big one. Just taking a novel, no matter where I go in the world, I have a book with me so that I can just pick it up if my phone dies and I just start reading through the chapters. Stephen King book, it doesn't matter. But what it does is it forces you to create images in your brain, and be creative without actually having to do any of the work. You're just reading along a story. But then that helps you when you go into the room and you're trying to come up with stuff. You already have your brain's already been practicing putting images in that don't really exist and being imaginative. It's so hard for us to do that now with these. All the time that we would have spent being creative, you could just ignore that. Anytime that you could be innovative or have a new idea or write a new song, you could just go here. I do it all the time, and I end up playing, Pokemon Pocket.
Or how many times have you looked at your phone because you're doing one thing, and then you end
up on something else?
Yep.
9 times out of 10, bro. The struggle is totally different for new artists now, and I get that. So I just try to give them whenever people ask, like things that I know actually work.
Sure.
You know, creating a routine, which is hard for a lot of ADD people.
Hell yeah.
Which most artists are. Waking up at a certain time of day, going to work out, sweating for some way. You can't tell me you're depressed all the time and then also not be doing anything for your health. That's why. That's probably just why. And then you go and you read for 20 minutes and then you go to the studio and fail for like a few months, at just writing something good. And then all of a sudden the wheels would start turning in the opposite direction. Consistent videos, even in your house, you find yourself a niche, and there's no way that nothing will happen. Sure. There's just no way.
Especially if you're a creative, because naturally the juices will start to flow, and then forget about it. At that point, you're just rolling with what's flowing out.
There's just no way. I'm just not hungry enough anymore. I'm okay. I've laid low. Saved my money. I got houses in 2 different places that I love, and now I just want to write what I want to write. I'm not hungry enough. I'm not the guy that's gonna be making every single video, but these kids can, and they're talented. So.
And let me tell you something. For the record, I love that you're admitting out loud, like, yo, I'm good where I'm at. I'm hungry enough, as you kind of put it, because I feel like there are a lot of artists that are, for lack of a better term, like pretending. And then when it comes down to like working, they don't want to, and it's holding things up. And
don't get me wrong, I did pretend. I did pretend. For sure, I pretended. You also put the
work in, obviously.
For sure, yeah. No, I'd put the work in, but I'm saying after, when TikTok started getting big, I for sure pretended because it just felt like part of the job now. And I had some videos go viral, and then some videos felt super forced, and was tried a million different things until I finally just was like, I don't really want to do this. I really don't. I know it's part of the job. I'm not that hungry anymore, so I'm just not gonna. Just gonna focus on writing really good stuff, and maybe sometimes that means writing it for other people who will do that stuff.
Yep.
Who are that hungry, and just help them, and then they can take it and make something out of it. It's just not gonna be me.
I love how real you are about this whole situation. No, I mean that too, because it's a breath of fresh air. Because there are all these artists, for lack of a better term, full of shit out here talking about like, I'm the hardest working person in the room, and then all of a sudden you pop it on a studio session and they're like fucking off somewhere, like not even in the room while everyone's working on a song for this person. So that's
really a lot of fluff, There is a lot of fluff, but there are also are a lot of hardworking.
Sure, of course, of course. What can we expect from you in 2025 and beyond?
You're gonna hear a lot more of my music through the voices of other people. I just want to, like I said, produce and write for artists that I believe in myself. It'll be fun because sometimes you get tired of your own voice. I just do. Like, unless the song is fully compelling and I love every single song, which I do, but I have hundreds of songs I'll never put out because I just got tired of my own voice, But I love all kinds of music. There's so many kids that I find on TikTok and stuff that I'm just like, oh, I could write you a great hook. Oh, that's all you need. You're almost there. And then you could do all the TikTok videos and everything, and I'll just sit back and, hope for the best. That's for sure. I'll still tour. It's my favorite part of the job. So getting out there and seeing everybody is the best. And then, I don't know, just see what the next album kind of comes to be. I'm playing Warped Tour, so I just finished a punk EP because I grew up playing punk rock. So I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna do another thing that I would have wanted to do when I was 18 years old. Live for the nostalgia, and I'm featuring Tony Hawk.
Why not?
Yeah, I'm featuring Tony Hawk on a song because I was like, I used to play Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and you probably have no idea what that even is. You know what I mean? You really, it's way more fun to mature with the music than to try to like live an old dream. It's so much more fun. So yeah, man, I'm just kind of doing what I want to do, just little like side quests and stuff, I guess.
I love it. We appreciate you one more time, Bryce Vine. Appreciate you coming by, dog.
Yeah, much love, man, dude. Thank you.
From the top of the Empire State Building.
The 100.